What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and today we're going to be talking about a fairly controversial topic which actually does impact Season 2 for MW3 multiplayer. Definitely stay tuned. Now, as of yesterday, we got plenty of brand new details about the return of Fortune's Keep, which reportedly is going to end up dropping Day 1, February 7th. Got plenty of coverage about that over on detonated.com, but as you guys are probably aware, a good couple of months ago, this is right before the launch of Season 1, Detonated and some other outlets did get provided with an official statement from the Matchmaking team about just how SBMM works inside of Call of Duty. And I was surprised to have received this statement, but as we condensed here in the tweet, talking about this topic in detail can be hard, and we haven't spent the time to pull together all of our work to share. But they mentioned in this statement here that it was a combination of latency, search time, skill, and other factors, which we're going to break down here in this video. But they do confirm in this statement that we got a couple months ago that they've been working on this matchmaking system for well over 10 years. Obviously, it's evolved since then. Obviously, we can all agree that ever since Modern Warfare 19, matchmaking feels like it's gotten a lot more strict, a lot sweatier, and like I've said in many previous videos, players are just getting better at the game, but that's not to say that the matchmaking isn't complicated. So we got that statement a little while back, but as of yesterday, after all the shenanigans with the Fortune's Keep reveal, the teasers that were sent to content creators, a blog post ended up dropping called Matchmaking Intel. Now, awesome enough, about 2 hours before this release, Detonated was also, again, provided with more information about SBMM so we can schedule some content. Sadly, the information ended up getting sent to my spam via my email, which was unfortunate, but still managed to get a really good article on it as soon as I was able to, and then Fajardi clutched up tweets as he was able to as well. But as they went ahead and confirmed here, this information is just about Call of Duty multiplayer. This does not account for Warzone or ranked play. They are going to, however, provide us with other bits of information, probably in Season 2 or beyond, about how matchmaking for those modes actually works. Today, we're just talking about multiplayer, so bear with me. We are going to talk about exactly how this does impact Season 2 for MW3. So, first off, how SBMM exactly works. So, as confirmed by the studio, what's referred to as skill-based matchmaking is broken down by a number of factors which create the lobbies we see inside of MP. Now, it's been said that info about Warzone and Ranked, again, will be shared in the future. Hopefully that's very clear for those out there that are really confused about how different this could be from other game modes. But in regards to multiplayer, we first up have connection. As the community will attest, ping is king. Connection is the most critical and heavily weighted factor in the matchmaking progress. That's obvious, right? You know, when it comes to the process of matchmaking via connection, you obviously don't want to be on the highest ping if you're playing with people from other countries. It's typically going to matchmake you with people that are probably nearby, at least almost in your time zone, right? Time to match. This factor is the second most critical to the matchmaking process. We all want to spend time playing the game rather than waiting for matches to start. They want to get you into the game as fast as possible, keep players engaged, keep players interested in the experience so that there's a chance that they could spend money in the item shop after they play that game. That's just basic economics, basic business when it comes to how online services work, right? Of course, with Call of Duty. Playlist diversity. The number of playlists available for players to choose from. So this right here likely explains why, even not just for MP, but for Warzone, why we don't have every available squad size or every type of option for each individual game mode, right? We may have had that years ago, but now they ensure there's a rotation every week of certain playlists to keep players engaged, keep players interested, and to keep the game feeling fresh with something to look forward to every playlist update on every Wednesday or Thursday. That right there ensures a lot of healthy player counts, right, for every game mode. Recent maps and modes. Considering maps you have recently played on as well as your mode preference, editable, and quick play settings. So yeah, it's gonna wanna match you with people that probably are playing or engaging in the same type of modes that you are, or even maps. And that's a thing that has me interested, right? If you're somebody out there that only wants to play small maps and you're always backing out of lobbies with larger ones, then it's probably gonna put you with players who probably feel the same way and don't wanna play on Wasteland, don't want to play on Quarry. That's likely what it does here. But then skill performance. I like how they put this towards the bottom though, right? And the way I laid out this article was taking the information they provided and, you know, organizing it topic by topic, but in the same order they provided the info in. So skill performance is towards the bottom here, used to give our players a global community with a wide skill range, the opportunity to have an impact in every match. So yeah, skill does play a part, but it's not just based on skill, right? You can be an absolute demon. That doesn't mean that you're going to get, you know, crazy high skill lobbies every time. They also want to take into account these other factors. But yes, to debunk any claims that skill doesn't matter, yes, skill does matter, right? Because believe me, there are folks that believe that there's other factors that matchmake you with certain people, like buying things from the shop or, you know, having a certain internet connection. And we'll talk about that later on. But yes, skill does matter. input device, controller or mouse and keyboard. Again, we already knew that. What gets frustrating though is that maybe my input gets selected incorrectly and I'm accidentally on mouse and keyboard. I want to play on controller. If I get into a game, I can't just switch my input. I have to back out, change the input and then go back into matchmaking. That gets frustrating, but yes, that is a way that you can matchmake, right? Platform, the device, PC console that you're playing on. So that's not to say that you're not going to have crossplay enabled with, a variety of people on different platforms. But I'm guessing if you're on PC, you might get matched with a lot of other PC folks too. But again, it's not anything that's guaranteed every time you play. You're usually going to see people on every platform if you have crossplay enabled in your game. And then voice chat, being enabled or disabled. I never have voice chat on. For the few times that I have it on, it could be funny hearing prox chat or, communicating with randoms for a certain reason. But every time I'm streaming, gotta turn it off. People are too inappropriate. Gotta keep it off. So I guess my matchmaking is a little biased towards folks that don't have voice chat on either, if I had to guess. But yeah, those are the factors that determine Call of Duty matchmaking. They gave us a graphic as well on how this works. So again, connection, playlist diversity, maps modes, where you recently played, your input, your voice chat being enabled, platform, skill performance, and your time to match. So a lot of different factors there, but they went ahead and confirmed for us a couple of things that have been controversial for years. They debunked so many different claims that I can't wait to get into. But again, as I went ahead and added here, the game data Activision has suggests that a healthier player base is maintained when the above factors are kept enabled. Various studios are working to test matchmaking further to account for frustrated players who claim they're constantly put in sweaty lobbies. This is where Season 2 comes into play, right? It can't be a coincidence that they went ahead and provided us with this info before the start of Season 2, and here's why. As I talk about later in this article, but in case you guys don't make it to the end of the video, an experimental playlist is going to be re-released at some point in Modern Warfare 3's future. We saw it before just once, and it allowed people to see enemy player outlines. It was cool, right? It was cool to see an experimental feature in a dedicated playlist. They're probably also going to use that playlist, as they tease, to also test out different forms of matchmaking, and I do think that playlist is going to be releasing during Season 2 for MW3 multiplayer. So they're going to work on testing certain things, but are likely not going to fundamentally change how matchmaking works, as we're going to get into in just a minute. So in addition, Activision's technology team is working on a ping and matchmaking white paper for folks interested in learning more about how SBMM truly works. More details will be revealed in the future, so we'll get back to that. But debunking some very controversial SBMM claims. They did a whole Q&A in their blog post, so here we go, right? Does Call of Duty consider player engagement, time played, as a factor in matchmaking? We do not consider how often or how much you play when determining matchmaking. So the point of having SBMM is to boost player engagement, but they don't take how long you've played into account to matchmake you. Hopefully that's clear. Of course, any game's goal is to keep you playing, but they're not going to say if one person played for 1,000 hours and one played for 1 hour, there's going to be any difference in how those people are going to matchmake, right? The only differences that'll be between those people comes down to these factors right here, right? That's it. It will not be on how long they've played the multiplayer for. Does the Call of Duty matchmaking process impact any in-game elements, such as hit reg, player visibility, aim assist, damage, etc.? That's been a huge conspiracy that especially, and I mean especially, plagues the Warzone community, right? And they'll probably readdress this later for Warzone, but at least for multiplayer, no, there is no such thing as some type of matchmaking that will actually impact those in-game elements, right? And I know people can have bad connections sometime and their hit reg is off, or maybe they can't see somebody correctly. Even aim assist could be weird, but there's other factors to explain that, not the matchmaking process, right? Maybe your internet is slow for the day. Maybe your controller has stick drift. Maybe, I don't know, your connection or your hardware that you're on is suffering, and you're gonna see different in-game performance. Has nothing to do with matchmaking. Hopefully that's really clear. Does spending money on Call of Duty content, such as bundles, Battle Pass, or Black Cell, change how players are matched? Money spent does not in any way, shape, or form factor into matchmaking. This is a conspiracy that came out of nowhere a couple of months ago because there was a patent signed somewhere, I think it was for Skylanders, another Activision property, suggesting that spending money in an in-game shop would determine a player's matchmaking process. That had nothing to do with Call of Duty. I don't think it's even a feature that exists in any game under Activision's umbrella. Nothing to do with COD, so that does not exist. I know folks out there are not going to believe this article. They're going to believe that I'm a show for reporting on info that I was sent, or they're going to say that this is all made up to keep people playing. Believe what you want, but this is official information from the studio at the end of the day. Does Call of Duty use bots in multiplayer matchmaking? Now, we make jokes on stream all the time when you see some absolute potatoes shooting at the sky, shooting at the wall, walking in circles. Those are still real people at the end of the day. So they do not use any bots as part of the general matchmaking process. if this changes in the future, which I do think it will, by the way, we will inform the community. I do think we'll get to a point one day in some dedicated playlist or somewhere where there are bots roaming around. And yeah, I know we have Invasion with a bunch of AI, I get that, but I'm talking about populating lobbies that are kind of dead with bots, similar to how COD Mobile does it. Wouldn't be shocked if we see that in real COD one day. I mean, not to say COD Mobile isn't real, but talking about a game on console and PC, not mobile. I think Warzone Mobile already even has a feature like this with, you know, populating playlists with certain bots. But in terms of regular COD multiplayer right now, that does not exist. Do partners or content creators get special consideration in general matchmaking? The answer is no. We do not change the matchmaking process behind or based on who owns the account. In specific cases, such as events like COD Next, we may be required to customize how lobbies are formed. However, these events usually take place in private matches and do not impact general matchmaking. So there's gonna be conspiracies to the end of time, right? The content creators have special treatment, special lobbies, there's a whitelist. There's conspiracies all over the place about that, and what I can tell you is that does not exist. You know, I'm a COD creator that is fortunate enough to work with Call of Duty from time to time. There's no special matchmaking, right? What does exist though, which I know I don't take part in, is people, maybe big creators or whatnot, that focus on special gameplay, high kill wins. They probably use VPNs, and that's it. That's not COD giving them easy lobbies. That's those people using VPNs. That's probably all that there is when it comes to seeing creators get triple nukes and 50 bombs in Warzone. That's really it. It's literally them using VPNs or joining a bot account. That's it. It's not Call of Duty providing any of us with any special treatment in terms of matchmaking. Hopefully that's really clear. Have you ever considered an opt-in, opt-out system for the matchmaking algorithm? That's a really interesting question, but their data suggests that splitting the player base with an opt-in, opt-out matchmaking will have negative consequences on the overall player pool. That means potentially longer wait times based on the type of matchmaking selection or type of matchmaking selected, plus adding to that playlist, map and mode history, platform and more, and matches with poor connections. So it sounds like a disaster in the making. That's all it sounds like. You could say, oh, well, back then there wasn't strict SBMM. There was an algorithm back then. There always has been. It just got more strict with MW3 moving forward because of crossplay and a bunch of other factors. That's what's going on here. But you ever tested removing skill as a consideration from matchmaking? We have run tests over the years to determine if removing skill as consideration from matchmaking makes sense. We will continue to launch these tests periodically. To date, the data remains consistent with what we detailed above. Players tend to quit matches or stop playing if they're getting blown out, resulting in a negative overall experience for all players in the lobby and the general player population. We purposely do not disclose when these tests occur because it may impact feedback or the data we see during these tests. So they run them in the back end without telling us. That's obvious. But here's the big takeaway, right? So with lower skilled players, they're backing out. They're like, hey, this lobby's too sweaty, I'm gonna find a new game. Or hey, I don't see shipment, I see a big map, I'm gonna back out. Because the lower skilled players or the casuals make up a majority of the Call of Duty player count, the matchmaking will, for the foreseeable future, cater to those people. That's a fact. That's objective. No denying that. Because hardcore players or high skill players, I consider myself a sweat even, because people like me or players that are better and super sweaty because they don't back out of lobbies and they're the minority of the player counts because they stick it through, matchmaking is not going to change. It's going to always cater to the most amount of people that are playing Call of Duty. That's the biggest takeaway here. So if you're like, what, this article said a bunch of nothing or didn't really reveal anything, it just confirms things that people should have already known. But because of all the tinfoil hats going around the community, people were in denial about very basic facts that to me were just common sense, but to others, maybe it wasn't. Have you considered removing skill from matchmaking in specific general multiplayer game modes? We have considered this in the past and will continue to examine if this idea makes sense as part of an experimental playlist or in a specific mode. We have nothing to announce on that front today. There you go. I think season 2 or beyond, probably season 2, no later than 3, we'll have an experimental playlist just for the fuck of it, and we'll probably never see it again. Probably a one-time thing, and we'll see how that gets received by the community, right? But as I added here, will SBMM ever change in the future? Like I wrote, doesn't look like COD intends to change very much with how players stack up against others. It's likely they'll alter how often lobbies disband, but it's clear that low skill players continuously back out of lobbies when they're on the losing end, meaning SBMM keeps them engaged. Higher skilled players statistically continue playing the game even when they're performing bad, meaning there isn't a big drop off like there is with lower skilled players. The effects of SBMM don't seem to be affecting the higher skilled players in multiplayer. Maybe they're the vocal majority on the internet, the higher skilled players, but don't represent the actual majority of the player base, which includes casuals, which probably don't use Twitter or Reddit or YouTube to voice their concerns, right? As casuals account for the highest percentage of the player base, it's unlikely Activision will alter the matchmaking, which only ensures a healthy player retention. Lower skilled players will continue to influence the matchmaking system so long as their lobby behavior remains the same. The That could change in the future, but like I wrote at the bottom, those are thanks to Activision for providing Detonated with exclusive details on Call of Duty matchmaking. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. How are you feeling about clarification in regards to skill-based matchmaking inside of Call of Duty? Again, I think a big takeaway too that's always funny to me is that buying bundles does not factor into multiplayer SBMM. It's a conspiracy. But look, it's good that they went ahead and came out and debunked things. It's good that there's transparency, open communication. Whether you believe it or not is on you, but I'm not going to assume they're going to be lying about statistics and analytics and matchmaking. Believe whatever it is you guys want, but I'm happy that I'm able to provide you guys with this amount of coverage, especially a little bit earlier than the blog post did. But with that being said, I really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.